step to Moya. Hey, jumbo, jumbo.
During the 12 weeks of Christmas, the cable gave to me free internet connectivity with lots of prizes and surprises for my loyalty, proving the cable really cares for me. There's HBO Plus streaming on Ultra TV and free extreme internet upgrade for all teachers in this land. So get your cable plan and bundle packages for the family. The cable gave me a platinum card that's interest free with online shopping capability and money transfer options with no global restrictions and no monthly fee. The cable is giving back to you and me. The cable is giving back to you and me.
We're here. It's 2022. Welcome to Only Good News, the best part about the day, the best part about Thursday, the best part about this year so far, because we haven't had any episodes. And, it's been, the last time I was here, I think, was second week in December. And December is a month I have renamed Stressember. That's now the word for December, Stressember, because my goodness, I don't recall ever having a good December in my recent years. It's just always, and this year was no exception. I was home with my daughter doing IT work, entrepreneurship work, calypso work, practicing sometimes, taking my daughter with me to practice, playing tennis. I had a gig in Nevis. My laptop crashed, and it was riveting, and that's why I took a break early on, because I said I needed to slow down, and I didn't really get to slow down. The not having a show was a good thing, but I got to focus on doing those things that were of value, but not really necessarily for me. But today, this is about good news. Today, I got a phone call, and I'm going to imitate it. Inanga, you know where I live? That's Hicks. I got something for you. So I'm like, oh, it's a check. And so I said, okay, yeah. He said, oh, I spell your name. So I spelled my name for him and everything. I said, yeah, what? Wait. It ain't cash. Normally, when we get paid in Calypso, it's like a little envelope with cash. I'm like, hold up. The man is asking for my name. That means a check. That means that, okay, ain't a little bit. So when I went over, I said, okay, when I finish with my daughter, because she's in online school and whatever, when I finish with her, I would go over. And, I see this little folded up thing, and I'm like, wow. And let me tell you why this is, and this is no pun, this is not a coincidence that a man of God is in front of me, but I also attributed all of that to his grace. Because yesterday my car battery died. Had to buy another battery. That's about $435. 2 days prior, I serviced my car, $525. So between those two, $960. Then gas, boom, in a week, less than a week, $1,000 gone. And my bank account was not looking very happy because of these incidentals. And let me tell you something about me, right? When I help people in the face of not having enough money, I do it with one assurance, one thing that I know. I've been blessed with, I would call a multidimensional talent, ability, to be able to have opportunities to create multiple streams of revenue. And so because I know I can fall back on, or I can get creative, or I can be innovative, and some of these people may not have that propensity, then I help knowing that I will be fine. And that phone call today came just in time. Just as some of you have called me, and you know who you are, just in time. Some of you have showed up just in time. Some of you have knocked on my door, sent me a WhatsApp just in time. And so me taking a break from the show was about self-care. Um, Jumpster, turn down as a smidgen. Yeah, it's about self-care. I didn't do a very good job of caring for myself December and even up to now. But what I was able to do was sit down, and when everything was just crumbling on me, I sat down and I said, you know what? I'm going to write down everything that I'm afraid of. I'm going to write down everything that's in front of me that's causing me to feel crumbled. And I came up with this list, and I called it Project Do Not Overload. And in each category, in IT, in fatherhood, in entrepreneurship, in me being altruistic, and me helping, I wrote every single thing and had a checkbox next to it. And as soon as I did that, the burden got lifted because I saw that it was actually possible just to take things step by step. And this show was one of those things that I had to take step by step. So I wanted to do the show last week, but I wasn't ready. See this energy you're feeling now that you're getting from me? It's because I had to take time. And some of us need to take time. I understand that self-care is not necessarily a beautiful thing. It's about actually looking at those things that make you cringe and addressing them. And it takes time, and it could be painful. But at the end of the day, the end result is rejuvenation, and being replenished. Again, I'm still at a deficit from my energy level, from my being able to be present and all those, but I'm not where I was last week, and that's what I'm giving to you all today. And when my guest, he's here, you're not seen him yet, but when I called him and he agreed to be on the show, gave me even that much more energy. When I know I have someone like this who's going to be in front of me, just made my week that much better. But anyway, that's my little preamble. Thank you, thank God, thank all of you for being there last year, this year, and those who will be there this year. All right, this show's about good news, episode 67 of Only Good News. Before I get started with that, let me pick up our sponsors. Y'all don't know the cable is doing some amazing things. I got a text in December, and they said, you've been upgraded to a next tier bandwidth, 100 megabytes, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I thought this was just a general text. So I responded. I was like, hey, is this for me or you guys sending some promotion stuff? They said, no, it's for you. I'm like, I've been upgraded to 100 megabytes download and 25 up at no additional cost. Like, seriously? All because I use my platinum loyalty card? That's it? To pay 3 bills in consecutive months? Okay, fine. I owed them for 3 months. Okay, fine. But I paid them at once. And I got rewarded with 100 megs. So now when I'm downloading, because as an IT guy, I have ISO files to download and all big things. And they just download in minutes. So thank you, Cable. And guys, like if you haven't checked out the Cable, that's some of the stuff that you get from them with a loyalty card and good service. And bam. Anyway, that's it. Giving the sponsors a little bit of love. All right, so we're going to start off with a story I saw in December. I saw this on Times Caribbean. I keep mixing them up. Hold up. I think they're the same person behind them. But Likey feeds the homeless on Christmas Day. And this was a story that warmed my heart because I normally come and talk about these stories on the show, about people going out feeding people and in these other countries. And here we have one of our own was seen going around, and she was recording these. I think she's a restaurateur or eatery person or whatever. I'm not sure who she is. But she was feeding these homeless people, going around feeding them on Christmas Day. What better way to give good cheer and love on Christmas Day than to do that? But that's actually tied to what I've spoken about on this show with respect to restaurants and supermarkets and wasting food. I'm still waiting for someone to come up with a solution that takes foods that like items that are close to being expired, like the day before they expire, and find a way to get those to people who could use them in the moment. You're gonna throw it away anyway if people don't buy it. So why don't we have people who are thinking about these things for human beings. I've said it to many people or some people close to me. If you don't develop a policy that takes into consideration, one, that we're human beings, and two, that we have families, then go back to the drawing board and revise whatever you've done. So if you're saying your policy for goods that are about to expire is put them on sale, and if they don't get sold, throw them away, that does not take into consideration that people are human beings with families. Let me drop the mic. All right, good story. Anyway, so what I'm going to say, I'm not even looking at the live because people are supposed to be interacting, right? Let me see if there's anyone who's saying anything on the live. It's getting hot in here, man. The AC is not on. The AC is not on. So if my producer is hearing, please come and take the remote and get the AC on. All right. So now I am watching the live now, and I see my camera is not even stationed properly. Let me just move it. All right. So what I'm going to be doing is because I am so busy, I'm going to be asking you guys to send me good news, man, during the week. If you see like how they say, if you see something, say something. That's for the bad stuff. Nah, with me now, if you see something good, send something good. And I will share it on the show. If you guys don't know how to find me by now, then I'll tell you again, check on Facebook for my name, Enoete. And just send me anything that you want me to share. Or if you're doing something good that's a good report, kindly share, man. We'll be happy to tell the world about the good stuff that's happening in your life and good stuff that you're doing, good stuff that you're observing. All right? All right. So next story, I like the story because this person, 2 NHL teams have combined to give ice hockey fan Nadia Popovici a $10,000 scholarship for medical school as a thank you for advising the Vancouver Canucks assistant equipment manager to get a mole behind his neck checked out. He was sitting behind Hamilton as she watched the Canucks play the Seattle Kraken on October 23rd, and unsure of if Hamilton was aware of the mole, Popovici banged the glass window to catch his attention and showed him a message that she typed on her phone. Following her advice, Hamilton did get the mole checked out, and it proved to be a malignant melanoma, a type of skin cancer. And basically, he went on a campaign to find who this person was, and she got a wonderful $10,000 scholarship to go study medical school. She saved his life, apparently. All right, next, good bit of story. I've spoken about this guy before, man, but he seems to continue to do good things. Shaquille O'Neal brings 2,000 Nintendo Switches and PS5s to underprivileged kids on Christmas. A long list of his good deeds. Like I said, I've spoken about it before. Now, the always generous Shaq turned to Shaka Claus. I like that. On December to shower low-income students with his gifts on Christmas. Now, the basketball star revealed on a podcast with Gary, I'm not going to pronounce that name, that he bought, by the way, people do the same with my name. It's okay, just call me E. That he had bought 1,000 PlayStation 5s and another 1,000 Nintendo Switches and an unspecified number of bicycles, and he delivered them to school children in Georgia. He says, my father was a drill sergeant. My mom was just a hardworking woman. And they had little, but they taught me the value of giving back. They taught me the value of helping those in need. This is one thing I do with my daughter, because my daughters keep telling me. My daughter says, Daddy, we're gonna get a lot of money one day, but we're gonna help people. I'm like, yes. She says, yeah, we can't just keep everything up to ourselves. We have to help people who are poor, people who don't have as much as we do. I'm like, yeah. That's those values that are being intentionally put in her. This is what Shaq's talking about. She's going to be saying that one day in a few years. He says, I ordered about 1,000 Switches and 1,000 PS5s. I went to Walmart and got bikes. So, yesterday at his elementary school in Georgia, kids were crying, kids were happy, and that's what it was all about. Yeah, and he joined representatives from Tonka, Pepsi, Stronger Together, and others to rain down gifts and cheer to the schools in Las Vegas. Right, I'm not going to go into more detail on that. Shaq bought gifts for kids. All right, the last story we're going to talk about before we go to my guest is a couple stuck on highway for 21 hours in a snowstorm asks bakery truck to give their supply to hungry drivers. A miserable day. Mr. Music producer, where's the music in my ear, man? I want music, 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 music. All right, a miserable day stuck in the snow on the U.S. Interstate 95 took a turn for the better through a positive sort of highway robbery. The understanding CEO of a baking company ordered one of his drivers to pass bread and roll out to stranded cars, breaking the fasts that were going on for 2 days. With some cars containing babies, pets, and elderly people, a lack of opportunities to eat provided as much discomfort to the cold to thousands of motorists on I-95 who got stranded when a winter storm dropped about a foot of snow on Virginia and other eastern states. Now, a Maryland couple, Casey Holihan and her husband, John No, hadn't eaten for 37 hours while waiting for the snow to clear when they spotted a baking company truck, not thinking it would work. The hungry couple, called the customer service line and asking if they have some bread. We didn't think it would actually work, but less than 20 minutes later, we got an incredible surprise. We received a personal call from the owner of the company who contacted the driver, and he said it was an easy decision, the CEO said. His words to the driver, give away all the bread, adding he was very humbled and grateful that we could help. If that doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, you need to wake up. Okay, my producers asked me if I didn't see the story. I probably saw it, but I probably got it. I will cover that next week. Thank you, my producer. We're going to take a little break because my guest is here. And we got 40 minutes of awesomeness to cover. We'll be right back.
Don't let the moment pass you by. You wanna show me what's inside? I can see it all in your eyes. It's good times. Tell me, babe, what you waiting on? Your eyes say they don't wanna be alone.
Experience the value. Get the cable's value bundle today. Internet, Ultra TV, free HBO Max, and a free Cable Platinum Loyalty MasterCard for only $157 monthly. Feel the thrill of 74 channels of Ultra TV. Feel the rush of the cable's 35 megabyte Bolt Internet. Maximum streaming entertainment is free with HBO Max and the ultra convenience of the Platinum Loyalty MasterCard. Shop, save, share, and don't forget, get a free internet upgrade when you pay your cable bills with Platinum Loyalty MasterCard. Not a cable customer? Sign up today and get more out of your internet, TV, shopping, and payment experience. The cable's value bundle, Ultra TV, internet, free HBO Max, and Platinum Loyalty MasterCard at $250 value for only $157 per month. Call the cable 465-2588 and come experience the value.
And we're back. And I want to make sure we all could see my guest. I'm going to check the camera when you guys can see him. Mr. Producer, can we see him? Can we see him good? This is come forward. Still can't see him. Let me adjust the camera. To his left. Now I think he's going further out of view. Okay, all right. We can see him. So Pastor. We can see you now, huh?
You might need to upgrade that to like apostle, bishop, prophet.
Apostle, bishop, prophet. So he's correcting me.
No.
He's just okay. He's giving me some pointers on how to address him. So we will get to that. Pastor is fine. We'll get to that shortly. So thank you for being here. I was very happy when you accepted the call. You are a man who accepts calls.
Well,
That's
it
what
should-
you do. You have your calling and you say yes.
You only say no if it's absolutely necessary.
All right, can we hear him? Or can we hear him good? Is he talking into the mic? Can we hear? Can we?
Hello?
I still can't hear him.
Okay. So this one.
Oh yeah, that's better. We can hear.
This is the real deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's better. So we can hear you now. So you said you only say no.
If you absolutely have to, as far as possible, don't say no.
Okay. Well. So yeah, someone was just saying we can't hear him, but we can hear him now. So those who can't hear will feel. That's what Mom always said. So thank you for being here. What was the highlight of your day?
The highlight of my day.
Yeah.
Well, the highlight of my day was actually sending some heartwarming messages this morning to some friends. Yes.
And those were messages of like affirmation and encouragement. and-
Affirmation, encouragement, goodness, joy.
people, I hope you hear what he said was the highlight of his day was when he was giving. A lot of us would have answered, yeah, I received. Like me, I talked about pigs calling me. That was the highlight of my day. I'm sorry. But I was all in response of the time that I gave. So we give and you take. So you give and you get back in return.
That's correct.
So I've always wanted to know, who is Pastor Connor from the perspective of the stereotypes you hear? And what are some of those? And if you're listening and you know some of these stereotypes, put them in the chat. I want to hear them.
Yeah, because I'm not sure you should ask me that.
You'd have heard.
should
You would have
ask
heard.
people what the stereotypes
No, I'm
are.
asking you what you've
I
heard.
have no idea
Oh,
what the
man.
stereotypes are.
You're dancing, you're dancing, man. You're dancing.
Oh, I don't know what the stereotypes.
You're a straight talker.
Nobody said anything in the chat yet.
Nobody said it. Okay, so you're not afraid to talk. You're not afraid to speak your mind. He's not one of these prosperity, preachers in that light. So what else have you heard?
Well, there are times that people say I'm not kind.
Okay, so let's start with that. Now you get to flip it. You get to flip with why they think that you aren't, but then why you know that you are.
Well, I think sometimes it's based on expectations. There is positive energy and it attracts energy, and sometimes folks want that energy and maybe you're just not willing to give it. And so based on expectations, based on folks not really knowing you, and in that regard, they make certain demands, and when it doesn't turn out the way they would like, then they think that you're not kind, because there is an assumption that by merely being a preacher or whatever, that you are going to respond to everybody's requests.
They think that you are God, because that's how we like to think of God. We ask God, and He's supposed to respond and say yes to
I don't
everything.
think they think I'm God, because they think that He can't be God. God is too nice. God is nicer than He is. He really can't be God, but so yeah.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen anyone chime in and say any other stereotype, but in your own words, though, who is Lincoln Connor?
Who is Lincoln
I
Connor?
didn't say pastor. At this point now, I'm going into Lincoln.
Who is Lincoln Connor?
Yes.
Well, in my own words, I would like to say I am just a regular guy who loves life and just love to enjoy life and see people progress and move forward in life. I really love the whole idea of just being regular, because I think in the context of current circumstances, individuals are trying to put so many labels and stuff onto themselves, but I just like being regular and being what I consider just being myself, just making life easy, just being myself. So, yeah.
So thank you for that. And you know that there's some people, when you know, like when you find out that they became pastors just from who you knew them to be when they were little, you're like, what? Is that the case with you, or pretty much everyone kind of knew you were heading in this direction?
It's kind of weird. I think a mix of both, because I
Okay.
met a lady recently and she told me, she said, I hadn't seen you for such a long time, but when I knew that you were a pastor, I was like so shocked and disappointed. And I was like, why? She
Wow.
said, because when I knew you're going to school, I would think that would be the furthest thing from your mind. And I think you could have done something better with your life.
Interesting.
Right? So, and then you have some folks to be like, you could not escape this, not if you ran away, like you were born to do this thing. So, you have it on both ends.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that, because what is it that surprised her? What was it that she felt that you were better slated for?
Well, she didn't say. She just thought that, and in that discussion, I think sometimes, and in her case, the whole idea of doing something better with your life, it goes to sometimes how we view church in our society. And pastoring is not a real career. It's not a real career path. It's not a profession. It's just something that you do on the sidelines. But the other day I had a good conversation with a good friend of mine, and he said, aren't you tired of being called pastor? He said, for the work that you're doing, you need to be upgraded. Like, pastor is just for people who not doing anything well. What you're doing is well. And this is a young person. So that was encouraging, yeah. But I mean, no, not speaking against the title or what pastors do, but I think in his mind, he was just so impressed in terms of the work. And I think so individuals have different takes on it.
So those who said you couldn't escape this, what were they basing that on?
Well, I guess they have their own evaluation of what a pastor is supposed to be and the work that I do, and just I think the body of work that I do and my response in the pulpit and out of the pulpit. So they sometimes tell me that you were really born to preach, or whatever the situation is, whatever they call it. But yeah, I do enjoy preaching. I enjoy it, I love it actually.
Wow.
Because it's more than just motivational speaking, because I can do that. That's easy, but preaching is more than motivational speaking. So
It's motivational speaking with a spiritual guidance.
well, I don't know, but let's not go there. But I don't call it motivational speaking at all.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I think I know why. Right. So let me find. I'm curious though. Did you grow up saying I want to be a pastor? Or?
No. I didn't grow up saying I want to be a pastor. I grew up saying I want to be a lawyer.
Oh.
Yes, I want to be a lawyer. And I loved politics.
I think we know.
But I would have been a politician too. But God had other plans, But I grew up saying I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to be a lawyer. So this was. I always tell people this was nowhere in my thought process. Absolutely nowhere. Zero. Nowhere. I'm telling you. I loved church when I was growing up, but I would never, ever said I wanted to be a pastor.
Wow. So you said when you were growing up you loved church. I want to know, what were some fun things that you would have been doing though, like recreational stuff as a child? What got you excited to do outdoors?
Well, as a child, what got me excited outdoors is what got everybody else excited. But the thing is, whether I was permitted to do it or not.
Oh,
That's the difference. You know, that's the difference.
Boundaries.
So, yeah. So there were lots of things that you were not permitted or allowed to do. You must understand that society was censored in a lot of ways. You know, up until the late 80s, 90s. Yeah, society was censored in a lot of ways. So a lot of things that I would have liked to do, I was not permitted to do. But I enjoyed everything nonetheless.
Sounds similar to some of our upbringings. Back home, yeah, we had, I couldn't come home past like 7 o'clock and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. But I think we turned out okay.
I think so too. I've actually had some friends who said to me, like, you know what, like, I'm kind of proud of you. I'm proud of you because they didn't have the boundaries that I had. And now they look at the discipline in my life opposed to where they are, even though I could not do some of the things they were doing when we were growing up. So it's kind of like a conundrum because I would say, I think anything I was allowed and permitted to do back then, I would have been really good at it. Absolutely anything. But that was not the case. So I made the best of life as it was.
So, the first time that you ever felt that power and presence of God from an early age or youth age or whenever, that first moment, do you remember it?
Well, it was not from like very early. I was in church, going to church or whatever the situation is. But I think I was a teenager. And I through the book of Nehemiah, just felt that overpowering presence of God, where Nehemiah was responsible for rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And I just felt that impression of the Holy Spirit where God was saying, you know, I want you to rebuild the broken walls. And that was like more than 20 years ago.
Wow.
Right? But now I'm actually seeing where that is bearing fruits, even though it was such a long time ago. So I wasn't like a little kid, 5, 6, 7, 8 or whatever. I was, going to church or whatever. But as a teenager, like that's where I really felt that's because, like I said, I did not plan to do this. But I think as my life began to evolve, then I began to get a more crystallized sense of what God wanted me to do in terms of helping society, opposed to helping myself. And I think that is important because for me, the main thing why I always said I was never be a pastor was because I felt pastors don't get any money.
Yeah.
And I felt lawyers got a lot of money. So when I was growing up, people were like, these are the people who get money, these are the people who don't get any money. Like, these are the people who have the worst cars, these are the people who have the nice cars, these are the people who have the worst homes, these are the people who have the best homes. So, like, just go and be a lawyer. And I think I was pretty smart and like to talk and figure out stuff. So, but like, that's easy, I can do that. Like, you know, be a criminal lawyer and get off all the criminals and stuff. And God says, like, no, you're not going to do that. Like, you're not going to help yourself, you're going to help society.
You spoke, and actually, this is good because I'm wondering why God does not make his presence tangibly felt as it was back in those days. So let's think about this example. There's a crusade you're supposed to preach in Nevis, right? And we get to the people are supposed to go on the boat. Well, we get there and the seas are rough. And let's say you just stretch your hands on the sea and then this pillar of fire comes and the sea parts and you drive the church bus from St. Kitts to Nevis and all of us driving behind you. Everybody who goes to that crusade will be converted and know God is real. Now, back in the days, in those Bible days, you had God doing that. And people still chose not to follow him. Why do you think that he doesn't do these awesome feats of tangible, perceptible presence anymore? Like, talk about that.
Well, he does. He
does. Okay,
He does.
I haven't seen it.
The thing is, those miracles are expressed for people to believe in God, especially those who have not received His word. And lots of miracles still happen in many places where people do not have the physical word of God that has come to us through the written oracles of God. The challenge is we have, as Hebrews chapter number 1 says, we have the full revelation of who God is through His word. And that then is what we are supposed to respond it to, and not merely a sign, because a perverse and wicked generation, Jesus says, looks for a sign, but there is not going to be given to them any sign, because the sign has already appeared. So what happens is we have a responsibility to respond to God's word as it is written to us, because that is the sign. But more importantly, there is a suppression of the truth. And often when there's a suppression of the truth, then God's manifestation is suppressed also. And so sometimes maybe those things are not being seen and felt because people are even suppressing the reality that God is able to do that in the world and do that in their life. And even when they see that, they don't ascribe it to God. They ascribe it to some other kind of energy or force that exists in the world.
Pastor, I could just see in heaven, right? Someone from the Bible days, hey, what happened? Like on Only Good News in heaven, right? I'm interviewing, like, so how did you get converted? I saw a pillar fall, a fire fall from the sky. I knew at that point that was God. What about you? Yeah, I read a book and I just had to believe. Like, it's an unfair advantage.
The thing about it is, the children of Israel saw all kind of pillars and all kind of things fall from the sky, and they still.
Yeah, and so when on Judgment Day, I'm like, you saw that and you still didn't believe? You deserve to go where you're supposed to go.
You know that the devil can work miracles too. All right. So anyway, keep it about me. Let's not get into the Bible discussion, because you see.
Okay, got it. So, so I am now curious. Luther Rice. I just saw it. Was really about the study of theology, and why it's important for spiritual leaders to do, or do you think it is important to get that structured background before embarking on being on the pulpit?
I think it's absolutely important because every profession has their body of information, knowledge that I think that their practitioners need to be aware of. And similarly, I think when it comes to church life, that body of information is necessary because, spirituality is a critical thing in the life of all people. And so business people, poor people, rich people, black, white, no matter what your ethnicity is, you are seeking out spirituality. And so when you come as whatever your profession is, and you come into church, I think that there is that humility that you expect the person who is before you to be that authority. And you let down all of your guards and your knowledge base and everything, and you want them to really challenge you deep down in the soul. And so in as much as you are a good medical doctor or a good lawyer or a good mechanic, when you come to church now, you expect that the person who is before you would have prepared themselves, and they are speaking into that need that you have. Because at that point, you see them as that authority in terms of helping you in your spiritual life. So while it is true that, you are always learning, you never fully comprehend and know everything. I think it's important to at least demonstrate to the people you are leading that you have tried to prepare yourself because you have some respect for them, and that's not their area of expertise, so they expect it from you. So I think that's important.
Yeah, because some pastors who don't have that structure, and it would kind of reflect in what they're able to
deliver.
Right.
Yes.
And they may start to sound repetitive.
Yes.
And one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And no one.
And then they blame you for not tracking, and you're saying like, no, it's not that I'm not tracking. It's like, anyway.
So when we're called to make this journey to be spiritual leaders, there's there are things we have to part with.
Right.
It's sacrifices that we make because this is not something that everybody says they want to do. What were, if you're comfortable sharing, what were some of those, I wouldn't call them vices, but traits or things that you would have preferred, like, think comfort zones that you just had to just do away with because you were going on this journey? If you're comfortable sharing.
Well, that's an interesting question, and it is at the same time. It's a dynamic question because those of us who grew up in church, it's almost like you didn't have to be called to be a pastor or whatever. You just knew that there were certain things like, that's it. That's the way it's going to be, right? Now, one of the things that I remembered growing up in church, like, it's not that you have to part with it, but it's funny, like, you are taught based on the light that you receive. So one of the things that when we were growing up in church back then, like, just basic relationships were prohibited. Right? Now, the thing about it is, some folks would look at it and be like, that's why you ain't going to church and that's what I mean. No, I don't look at it that way. I think that it's based on the light that you were given. So I am a trained teacher, and I remembered when I taught before I was actually trained, I felt like I was doing a tremendous job. And when I completed teacher training, I was like, I just want to teach over everything I taught prior to teacher training. Because I felt like I was given so much more light now. But when I did it based on the best that I had. And I felt like I was doing a good job for those kids the same way because I was doing the best that I knew. And my intention was still for them to gain as much. And I never intended to harm them in any way. And so if in the end that they were, you ask God to forgive you or whatever, but you do better for those now because you have more light. Right. So basic interactions and relationships was like prohibited. You'll find that a lot of people from my contemporaries in church, they either like not married or have children out of wedlock. And that's because it's like, don't talk to anybody. Like, if you talk to anybody, like, we're going to flog you. And once you talk to somebody, you're doing something bad. And so, especially ladies, like, after they reach a certain age, it's like, okay, well, I'm not married and it doesn't think it's going to happen, so I'm just going to get a kid because I want to have a kid or whatever the situation is. That doesn't mean that the church is a bad place. That doesn't mean that the church did not do a good job. There is some deconstructing that may need to take place. But in that deconstruction, it doesn't mean we throw the baby out with the bathwater, because those church leaders at the time, they meant well. And their intentions were pure. But that's the light that they were given. So you committed a lot of time to doing church things and not to other sociable things, because anything that was sociable outside of the church was bad and wrong. So I remembered when I was in sixth form, I wanted to join the debating society so badly, because remember, I'm going to be a lawyer. But the church had a Friday night engagement. You can't go to that because you have to go to what the church is having. Now, nobody is concerned with what you're going to gain there. As far as they're concerned, what you're going to gain there is not spiritual, is not godly, have no impact upon your life. You are going to church. So like you said, yeah, there were lots of sacrifices. You're taught to be like obedient, right? So when you go to Sunday school, it said, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. So when I go home and you're told, like, don't do this or don't do that, like, I'm not saying I'm the consummate obedient person, but I just don't do it because you're saying in church, like, obey or whatever the situation is. So my brothers would go and do all kind of stuff and go over the place and come home and they feel like or whatever. But I wouldn't do that.
So I'm going to follow up on that because you're touching on something that speaks very dear to me, because if you preach a doctrine of prohibition, then you're actually encouraging. If you tell me to stop thinking of an orange penguin, I'm going to start thinking of orange penguin. And so if you hear more do's than don'ts, then you will have people who are more inclined to doing the do's. Has this background of the don'ts influenced your leadership style now in the church?
Yes, it has, for good. Because again, I do believe that light, when you are given more light, you have a responsibility for the light that you were given.
Right.
That is just my approach to life. I
That's
am not
deep.
going to blame anybody for what happened back then, because I know that everybody who spoke into my life then, they had good intentions. Their intentions were pure. It's the light that they were given. So I take that now, knowing the impact of that, based on the light that is given. Like I said, there is some deconstruction that needs to take place, and is taking place. So you deconstruct the whole thing, and you say, even to parents who don't fully understand it, but they have best interest for their children, and you say, but it's okay if you allow them to do this, because this is just a one-off situation or whatever the situation. So I use that to help individuals to balance and to understand, because I think there is more light that has come to us in terms of understanding the scripture and how we should apply it. So I still utilize it, but I don't preach it that way, but in terms of ensuring that we don't propagate the same philosophy in our approach to ministry.
You see, that light you're talking about is being felt, because I find that you have become a little bit of a soundbite sensation. Because I would see some clips of some of the things that you would say that has everybody saying like, wow, yes, the Pastor Connor said this. So the most recent one I think was about jackets.
No, we've had more since that.
Since that,
man,
my
you're
goodness,
behind.
yeah, I'm behind. I've been under a rock, but and then you all never afraid to say anything to the almighty politicians. Just induce humility and course correction. Have you gotten any backlash or any consequences as a result of these bold proclamations that you come out and say?
Well, of course, there are people who are not going to agree with everything you say, and I understand that that's part of
that's part of it,
of the approach. So if I'm preaching and you choose to clip something, that's the nature of social media. I don't go back and look at what people write. And somebody might say, oh yeah, you said this, and somebody put this under the comment and said this about you. Said, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
Because I don't go back. I'm not looking for likes. I really am not. And so wherever it goes and the impact of it, I'm glad. But then it wasn't for likes. Because if it's for likes, what is going to happen is that I am always going to be trying to be more and more sensational. And it's just that when I'm preaching, like I tell people, I am working from a frame. I have a frame in my mind, exactly where I'm going. So part of that frame is illustrative. So then I may give an illustration, and all the illustrations, I believe, need to be relevant and applicable to to the audience in front of you and those who are listening on social media. And so what happens is people like the illustrative part. So they cut the illustrative part without taking the whole context,
right?
And then they go with that. But hopefully in that illustration, it is just enough to invoke some kind of discussion and debate and transformation in the lives of individuals. So at the end of the day, I am still happy for whatever it is worth that, at least it impacts them some way, somehow. But it's never intentional that, okay, I'm going to say this so that they can clip it out.
It just happens. I've heard some, and I've said to myself, that's no, you don't hold, what's the word, no water in your mouth? That's the phrase they say? Yeah, that's fine. Now, I do admire about you. Like, you're really in touch with the realities of life outside of the church. I'm not going to call it secular life, but it's just life. And, when I was in your church in December and I heard you talking about singing Jackie and talking about her songs, and I was like, yeah, he's a pastor and he knows singing Jackie's song. And people have ostracized me for playing calypso. And I'm like, guys, we're playing to what we talk about Putting
Yes.
music and a beat to it doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
And I felt like, okay, pastor can, you have a boundary, you have limits to what you can permit to listen to. But at the end of the day, I was very, I felt validation from you to just know that, he's not going to look at me and say, oh, yeah, no, you can't play in my church. You play calypso. No.
I love Calypso.
Okay, there you go. I love it. And
Well,
yeah.
Again, it's the light. If you understand your history, you understand, you do appreciate the music, and you understand why Calypso and the
Yes.
impact of Calypso. And I think that you also need the Calypsonians to help you. With part of the role of the church is social justice. And that's where we sometimes in our jurisdictions get it confused, because some folks may say, oh, Pastor Colin is supposed to be talking about that because that's what the church is for. But there has to be an element of social justice, because that is, through and through in the scriptures. And so the church is responsible for ensuring that there is some sort of balance in social justice. And I think even in Calypso music, there is that kind of social justice.
Yep.
And you can't turn a blind eye to it, really. You have a responsibility. So all of that reality of life is what engages me in understanding. And also my experience prior to coming into this role, as I mentioned earlier, to ensure that we don't propagate the same ideology. You know what your responsibility is as a philosophical approach to following Christ as a disciple of Christ based on what the scripture teaches. That's a philosophical approach that you have to understand. But at the same time, you still are required to be in the world and even appreciate the way that Jesus responded
Yes.
in his own life. And if you don't
Yep.
understand the life of Christ, then you really will never understand your approach as a disciple of Christ.
Because he wasn't hanging out in church all the time.
Well, he wasn't in church. He went to church, and the people had a problem with him. He go to church, he took up the scroll, and he reads in Luke chapter 4, and the people said, like, who this man be? Like,
Right.
it's St. Joseph's son, who tell him to come in
Right.
here and say that. And so he says, you know what? Let me go out there and have a good time.
Thank you.
I was telling them the other day in Bible study, I said, look at it. When Jesus met the woman at the well, and he was having this conversation with the woman at the well, the disciples, the Bible says, went to buy bread. So Jesus would be there with this woman having conversations. Say, can you imagine that back then? That's exactly what I told him. I said, can you imagine back then in church life? Somebody would have taken their picture, social media would have blown it up.
Yep.
Look who Jesus down here talking to a prostitute. He's trying to get a hookup with her. And,
Yep.
And yet, and I think that all of
Yep.
those things have to mean something why they are in the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
They must mean something. And I think that is the challenge that we face, because we don't appreciate this reality of not enmeshing, but recognizing that we have to be light. And if you are going to be light, there has to be some darkness. Yeah.
Man, you hitting some good. We have like 5 to 6 minutes left. Can you imagine? This is means going so good. But wait, Jerry's not here, right? We're gonna go over by 5 minutes, so we'll give him a 99. So let's. I want to know sermon preparation, because I know that has to be difficult.
Whew, yes, it is.
It's like writing a paper every week. Like, you asked me to write a paper for school.
Then you're writing more than one paper, because you have Bible study, and you
Thank
have
you.
other studies, and
Thank
you
you.
have funerals, and you have weddings, and you have
Yes.
people who have specific problems
Yes.
that need specific.
How do you do it? What goes in, how do you go into being balanced with, and you have a life. I'm pretty sure your life is beyond just being in the
Certainly
church.
it is.
Right. So how do you just be even with this show? Like, by the guys, he called me like at 6:57. Where are you? I'm like, I'm still prepping for this show. I'm still putting the last minutes to the show. I had to dash out. I have to prep for this show every week. You have to prep for so many different. What goes into that, man?
Well, first of all, because I believe ministry is a calling, God empowers you to do it. That's the first thing. The grace he gives and the capacity he gives is really empowering. The things that you are called to do, you can't get it done except there is a supernatural empowering. with you. That's the first thing. And his yoke is easy and his burden is light.
Right.
If you're trying to do it out of your own self, it becomes tiring. But because you're doing it based on his empowerment, it's easy. But if we take it in the natural, again, because I've had some training, that has helped me to be more structured in understanding what my responsibilities are, because those are things that you discuss. So you come away, and for me, the schools that I attended, I have a great respect for my professors, and I saw how they, labored over the work, and they were so passionate about sharing with us because they felt that they were passing on, committing it to faithful men and women to commit it to others. And that is a responsibility that I think I have to ensure that, one, I don't let them down for the investment that they made, not because I was paying the school. So that's it. Secondly, I do understand that I have a great responsibility to the Lord, to ensure that I understand and I commit his word to his people in the appropriate way, because I will be judged for that, whether I intentionally or through ignorance spoke the wrong thing. So I will be judged for that. So I take that seriously. So I always have to be reading the word, in the word, praying, blah, 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 because that's where the Holy Spirit speaks to you as to what you should speak about. Now, I always tell folks, by Wednesday, I need to know what I'm preaching. By Wednesday. So Wednesday is like the latest. So I should have it by Wednesday. Because early in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I am actually ruminating that in my mind and doing that study, having read the scriptures and processing that, and illustrations are coming to mind when I see stuff, and when I go, it's illustrating the message. So by Wednesday, I know exactly what I'm going to preach. And then by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I start to put it in a script form.
And the media and the PowerPoint and everything.
Yeah. But there is something about what I do that I cannot, until the very last minute, though, put the final touches on it. The very, very last minute. Even when I was teaching, the very, very last minute. So I would have to, Saturday, really just be doing this, but I'm not starting the message then. I'm just putting those finishing touches on it. But I think the most challenging thing is when you come to Saturday and it's the Holy Spirit say, you ain't preaching that?
Ooh. So you got to start over.
You got to start over. And I've had occasions where I have to start over Saturday night. And sometimes you get there, and then Sunday morning you get there, and you just feel an energy. And the Lord says that you ain't even preaching nothing that you have written down there, because this person is in the crowd, and this person needs to hear this. And it's in those times, I think sometimes it's like the worst message, and I'll be like, God, this message didn't make no sense. It was so flat. Nobody was responding. And then sometime in the week, somebody's going to call and they'll be like, that message on Sunday? This spoke to me because of this. And I want to thank you for this. And then I said, God, thank you for the obedience. And so I can go with what I have, thinking that I'm better equipped. But the Holy Spirit says, no, don't do that.
Wow. Pastor, you've done it. And you're definitely spirit guided, and you have a very perceptible relationship with both sides. And I think that's the reason for why people will like you and why people will not. As you said, people who may think that you're not kind. But with the light that you have been given, you're continuing to shine bright. And yeah, we're about to finish, but we typically would finish with, some rapid fire questions. But I did have 3 pastor jokes here. I just want to, because I don't want to end on that. You took me deep, and I want to come up, so I'm going to inflate my inflatables, because you went so deep. I was like, this is my only good news, man. So let's.
I know you led me down.
That's
the
okay.
path.
It's okay, but trust me. The listeners are. Werner James says, "I'm loving this. I love him." Spice Griffin is saying something similar too. Don Mills is listening. Kishon Williams is. So we have people who are chiming in who are definitely appreciating what we're doing, and so what we did, and you being here, and what you spoke about. This was a sermon, also.
I believe in people.
There you go.
I believe in people. Yeah.
All right, 3 pastor jokes. Let me read first one. I hope I'll make you laugh. This one sounds similar to what you're talking about earlier today. The pastor decided to skip church Sunday one morning to play golf. He told his assistant he wasn't feeling well. So he drove to a golf course in another city so nobody would know him. He teed off on the first hole, and a huge gust of wind caught his ball and carried it an extra 100 yards and dropped it right in the hole for a 450-yard hole-in-one. An angel looked at God and said, "What'd you do that for?" God smiled and said, "Who is he going to tell?" I made you laugh. All right, next one. This one's a bit longer, but let's get it. The pastor asked, and you do this, I'm pretty sure. He asked if anyone in the congregation would like to express praise for answered prayers. Susie Smith stood up and walked to the podium. She says, "I have a praise. 2 months ago, my husband Tom had a terrible bicycle accident and his scrotum was completely crushed. The pain was excruciating and the doctors didn't know if they could help him." Everybody was like, "Wow, that was a lot of pain. Tom wasn't able to hold me or the children," she went on, "and every move caused him terrible pain. We prayed, and as the doctors performed the delicate operation, it turned out they were able to piece together the crushed remnants of Tom's scrotum and wrap wire around it to hold it in place. All the men in the congregation cringed and squirmed uncomfortable as they imagined how much pain he was in. Now," she said with a quivering voice, "thank the Lord, Tom is out of the hospital, and the doctor said with time his scrotum will completely recover." All the men in the audience sighed with relief. The pastor rose and tentatively asked if anyone has something else to say. A man slowly stood up and walked slowly to the podium. He says, "I am Tom Smith." The entire congregation held their breath. "I just want to tell my wife, the word is sternum." All right, the last one. A pastor goes hiking, and as he comes around a corner on the trail, he comes across a giant grizzly bear. The bear lets out a growl and is about to charge when the pastor falls on his knees and prays, "Lord, I pray that the bear will become a Christian." And in an amazing miracle, the bear is instantly converted and stops where it is, and it looks upwards and begins to give thanks. "Thank you, Father, for the meal that I am about to eat." And on that note, we're going to go into rapid fire questions. 10 questions asked in first person. You just answer them as candidly as you want. Number 1, this is my favorite book in the Bible, and this is why.
I don't have a favorite book.
Okay. Number 2, I may be a pastor, but this doesn't mean I can't do this. Surprise us.
Drink.
Woo, good. My go-to gospel song when I need to get hyped up.
My go-to gospel song when I want to get hyped up is I Will Make the Darkness Light.
Okay.
It's an oldie goldie.
All right, next one. For me, this is what I call comfort food. Comfort food. What do you feel?
Comfort food for me?
Yeah.
Comfort food for me is rice and chicken.
Okay. Number 5, you can always make me smile by...
You can always make me smile by buying me a card and writing something nice in it.
Aww. All right, God comes and says, "Pastor, I will give you the answer to any question you have, like the absolute answer, but only one question." This is what I'll ask him.
When are you coming again?
Number 7, one sport I wish I was really good at.
Soccer.
All right. Number 8, one do-over in life I could really do with is...
I'd get kids very early.
Number 9, listen very carefully. I will be willing to shave off my entire beard if we're able to collect this amount in offering in church this Sunday or for the rest of the month, and half of those will go to charity for this amount, for you to shave your beard.
Oh, I have to give a figure?
Yes. What would it take for you to shave everything off for charity? I got you stumped. I got you stumped. The beard must go for charity.
50,000.
50,000 people. You heard that?
I'm that's low. That's low.
$50,000. If we collect $50,000 in church
That's
for
low.
the rest of the month, no. So listen.
It's every Sunday you want 50,000, right?
Okay. $50,000 on Sunday. Anytime you're able to collect that amount, you're gonna shave your beard, and half of that has to go to charity.
Yeah. 50,000.
50,000. All right, and number 10 is what I always ask everybody on the show. What's the best part about being on this show?
The best part about being on this show, it feels very human.
That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. People, we've had an amazing time. I am blessed. I feel lighter, especially with all this light that this pastor has brought into the studio. And if there's anything lasting words you want to leave with our listeners before we go, you can say that. Otherwise,
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It was definitely a tremendous experience, and I want to encourage folks to believe in themselves, forget what is behind, and press to what is before.
There you go. You heard it. See you guys next week, and don't forget to be kind and to always spread love. Bye.